Okay. It's Monday.
Yep.
One of our favorite things to do.
Yeah. Zach's already drunk. What did he say? Said, I just watched this, I'm drunk.
You're like way ahead of us, man. Yeah. Zach sent me a message earlier that he had watched this show.
Yeah.
And one of the funny things, I laughed out loud when he said, he's like, one, the actual mom and the actress that played the mom had like really, really tragic hair in this, which I agree they did. And also, he's like, when the paranormal team got there, the Wiccans, when the Wiccans got there.
The Wiccans.
The main like lady of the Wiccans like on the show was like super hot, and then it's like the real one looked like E.T. He said.
Oh damn!
And I was like,
that's some gay bitchery right there. Well, she was a little older, you know what I mean. She was an older woman who was looking very skinny, and she probably was cute.
Yeah, they put like a young hot woman in there. Like I said, it's weird because they do that a lot. Sometimes I know that a haunting, they tend to have like a stable of actors because you see like the same ones like turning up again and again. Yeah. So a lot of times I'm sure they're just like, hey, we need somebody to play the mom. You don't look anything like the mom, but whatever. But sometimes they get it like pretty spot on. So I'm always kind of like they are obviously like trying to get somebody, but if they can't, they're just like, hey, you'll do. Just like get in there. No one's gonna like worry too much about it.
This is a good episode. What's good about this episode is it's an entertaining episode to watch. Okay, but what's interesting about the case is that the mom, who's kind of like the most interested in the case, actually tries to solve it. She's doing her own paranormal kind of fucking paranormal research. She's actually marking down when things happen and what time and
what was going on. Like what was the weather like outside and how was everybody feeling that day and all this.
So she's actually documenting it.
Yeah,
that's good. That's real good. Of course, I haven't seen the documentation that's just talked about in the program, so it may not be anywhere near as detailed as they make it seem in the episode. But it's interesting that she's actually kind of doing the right thing, documenting what happens when, and what was the family's fucking state of mind.
And the environmental conditions as well, which, like I said, that could play into it. She seemed very level-headed, and she said she was a very scientific person, and she wanted to and I was like, well, that's good. That's what you should do.
It lends credibility to the case if it's well documented over time, and you can see the documents and fucking verify that she actually did document it. You know what I mean? It just kind of adds a little more air of credibility to it. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see the actual stuff that she wrote down. But it's an interesting case.
Yeah.
It's got Wiccans in it. They all showed up and copped out and shit.
This one was a little bit different for a couple of reasons. One, the ghosts, didn't really get the feeling that the ghosts were all that malevolent. Like, it was creepy, the stuff that was happening, but it wasn't kind of like, oh, you got a dark entity or a demon or anything like that. There was a shit ton of ghosts in the house, evidently, but none of them were really mean. Some of them were just kind of, like, scary, and they actually called Wiccans to cleanse the house of the infestation.
I classified this case as one of the portal-type cases, where there's a portal to the other side, a bunch of ghosts that are lost, and maybe like a malevolent one. That's usually the case that's in there that's kind of manipulating some of them, and they gotta try to close the portal and tell them all to go home. That kind of shit.
Tell them all to go home.
Out,
go to the summer lanes, as the Wiccans say.
Yeah, there's many cases like this, and this is, I call them a portal case. Now, a lot of times when they talk about the portal and the multitude of ghosts,
that sounds dirty.
Yeah. You could make an X-rated version of it. Belladonna started and then My Ass is Haunted.
There was. That is absolutely a real Belladonna movie. It's called My Ass is Haunted.
Yeah.
Yeah, she knew all about the portal.
Yeah, the portal. So, the portal, dang. Fuck it.
What happened?
Well, when they start talking about, usually the portal subjects don't really come into play until paranormal investigators or Wiccans or something like that comes in, and they say, well, there's a lot of them here, so there must be a portal open. That's typically what happened.
Somebody left a portal open.
Yeah, they left the damn door open.
Just like leaving the fridge door open. What, were you born in a barn?
They must have been playing with the Ouija board, and they played with the Ouija board and left the door open. It's usually the story. Or they were doing some dark arts and they left the damn door open. So it's just one of those kind of stories.
It is, yeah. Although, like I said, I don't feel like they went too much into, like, they didn't go too much into, like, blaming some people, like, playing
They lived there before and all that.
Yeah, they didn't really do that so much.
Yeah, I don't really know. You know, personally, well, we'll get into it in the case, but personally, I'm skeptical of these kind of stories about the portals. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm skeptical about the phenomena. Phenomena could happen. All right, but it might not be portals. It might be poltergeist, or it might be haunting, or, but you know what I mean. People are going to make their own explanation of why, you know, it does different things, and it seems like more than one of them. You know, it might be your interpretation of what's happening is that there's more than one of them. You know, or you see a bunch of apparitions, but you know, if you're a ghost, you can appear at anything you want to. You know.
I mean, I would imagine.
Right.
That would be half the fun of being a ghost, I would think.
And you might be seeing, let's just say, for instance, let's think about this. You might be seeing the memories of a ghost. Or a ghost might just be tripping you out and you're imagining that that's what that ghost looked like. You know, it could be a lot of things. Or it could be somebody just straight up lying. Yeah, paranormal investigators.
Well, like I said, it could totally be like what happened in Beetlejuice, where the Maitlands were just trying to scare the Dietzes away. So they were like, "What's the weirdest thing?" So they pulled their faces all fucked up.
Right. Yeah.
Like that. That's not what they looked like, but that was what they were. They thought that would be scarier than what they actually looked like.
I'm kind of the opinion that I've never seen what they would typically call a ghost. I've seen a poltergeist, and I've been in a bad house. That bad house, I'd probably call it a very mild haunting, but never saw anything. I'm of the opinion that ghosts are very rare. Very rare. The chances you've just seen one of them is fucking... You'd probably have to live a couple lifetimes before you'd see one. You know? The average person doesn't see one. So what's the chances of seeing 20 of them in one spot? You know,
seems a little. It's a little.
Seems
ghost,
unlikely.
Like a little ghost heavy. That
it's more likely that it was just one of whatever it was, and you're interpreting it as if there's a bunch of them, or it's making you believe that there's a bunch of them, something like that.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Got a super chat.
Super chats and flash bulbs. If the super chats are active, and of course we always would accept a tip during the live stream.
Sure, we like that.
Jenny works hard for this. And let's go ahead and everybody's drinking. Look,
Zach says,
everybody's in here now.
I can't believe they did a whole shut up woman, I'm watching the game. But I know, right? They did.
Well...
Well, that's when she was trying to do the diary, and she's like, "Hey, honey, like, what were you doing when you saw that thing? Like, I'm writing it down." And he's like, "I'm trying to watch the game." But I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah. I understand the sentiment. I understand the sentiment, but I was never a sports ball fan. You know what I mean? I'd never really got why dudes would get so wrapped up in that shit. First of all, those aren't your teams. Somebody else owns them. Okay. And why are you cheering these dudes on? Is it some kind of man lust because you're not that athletic, or what? Because when I look at those dudes that are into sports ball, they're always fucking physically unfit. Almost always. The ones that are really, really into it. It's like they're living vicariously.
But yeah, I think that's largely... I'm not like shitting on sports fans as a whole, but I do kind of feel like that's a big part of it,
It's these beta...
Or dudes that used to play sports back in high school and shit like that, and now they're kind of like too out of shape to do it. So
Al Bundy.
Yeah, it's like an Al Bundy situation.
Most of them were betas back in the day, and they're betas. Short, fat, beta white males fucking living vicariously through dominant, strong black men. You know what I mean? There's something weird about it.
It's a whole thing.
It's something
Well, that's the thing. It wouldn't be weird.
That they were
it wouldn't be weird if they didn't make it weird. It's like, why don't you just accept...
Just admit what it is that you're doing.
Right. And then it wouldn't be weird. It would be fine.
Yeah.
It would be fine.
Okay, yeah.
It's just the fact that you're like denying that that's what it is.
That's what it is, though. I'm looking at it going like, you know. They're fetishizing. They're role-playing and fetishizing and fantasizing that was them.
See, that's why I think that's...
Or that they were friends with those dudes and they're hanging out.
That's why I think you might like that that Jordan Peele movie, Get Out, because they're almost kind of like... Like fetishizing, like, athletic black men.
Athletic black, and then like... He's fantasizing that one day he's at his house, and Shaq shows up to his house, and they fucking hit it off. They become best friends.
And then they start making out.
And then I don't know what the fuck he's doing. Then they go ride around in the truck.
It's not weird. They're making it weird by denying it.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, I ain't
Just
talking about. Zach's getting interested. He's like, yeah. That's what it is.
Blackfrog said, have you guys heard Marilyn Manson's Celebrity Ghost Stories episode? It's fucking wild.
Yeah, I heard it, but I forgot about it.
Yeah, we did see that, didn't we?
Was he talking about when he was in New Orleans? Because I used to live in New Orleans.
I can't remember what all happened, but I think we did watch it. But that was like a year ago. Zach says they left a portal open in my ass.
Yeah. Zach's calling him in. He's sucking him in with fucking psychic forces.
And then Danny Rolling said at first, seeing the father face down, ass up, trapped on the bed in this episode. Which we'll get into that with like the sheets and everything.
That's right.
I for sure thought a spectral Fleece Johnson booty warrior situation.
Yeah, fucking Fleece man coming down here. I know what I am.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Danny Rolling also said, nice looking house in this episode. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, through my sleuthery, I found the actual house. I don't really know if I want to say where it is because it was pretty easy to find, to be honest with you. And the only reason that it was easy for me to find was because, I don't know if anybody noticed, but they actually said what the name of the street was on the episode. It was just kind of like an offhand comment, but my little ears went, doop, and I wrote it down in my notes. So then I looked it up and I was like, oh, that street is like super short. There's only like 10 houses on it, maybe a dozen. So I looked it up and like, obviously it's not the house that's in the episode, which is much nicer than the actual one. But I kind of went up and down the street and I said, you know what? I bet it's that one. And then I looked it up and you know how I found it is that one? Because that family evidently still lives there. So the guy's dad's name, the dad's name, came up under like a white pages or something like that. And it came up on that street. And I was just kind of like, oh, well, there's the house. So you can look right at it.
Yeah.
4 bedroom, 4 bath, I think. Built in 1790.
If you put your mind to it, you can find most of these places that they're.
I mean, and I don't usually like go to that lengths, but I was curious because they said the street. When I looked at the street, it was like really short, and so I got curious like to see if like I was like, oh, is the house that they used on the show like on the same street? Because they do that sometimes. It's not. It might be in the same area. I didn't really like explore that much, but
take them from around that area. They'll select
because this is Vermont. So I imagine that house is nearby, but it's not on the same street though. It's not on the same street. Not that I saw. But like I said, the street is super short. It's literally like, well, there's like kind of like a brick building like at the end, and there's like a T-junction, and then it's like a little short street with like a dirt thing at the end, and then there's like maybe 12 houses. Maybe not even that many. But the one that I thought that it was, that was the one that it ended up being. And like I said, I'm pretty sure, at least according to the white pages that I could find, that the same family still lives there, like all this time later. Because actually they bought it and Zillow says it's not for sale. So I'm imagining, and like I said, on the white pages, like their names still come up. So I'm imagining they still own it. They bought it in 2005 and then moved in 2006.
Mike's saying that bit is a weird term for me. I guess he must be a sports fan. Look, yeah, I understand the fucking channel's got a sense of humor, okay? It's not a one-size-fits-all type situation, but I'm just saying, the dudes that I knew, and I gotta say, my dad was bit that way. He would sit there and watch fucking football games, and I was just like, what the fuck?
My dad was in a NASCAR.
And he would fucking root for fucking the Saints, you know? And that was in another state over, because Mississippi didn't have a team, you know?
That's right, they don't, do they?
He was just wrapped up in the fucking Saints.
That never occurred to me.
And I was just like, and I couldn't stand the sound of a damn football game.
I can't either, actually. I don't like any of that kind of sound of like televised sports.
Talking, it just
because like I said, when I was growing up, my dad used to watch NASCAR. He didn't usually watch football except for like he'd watch the Super Bowl, but normally he didn't really give that much of a shit about it. But he loved fucking NASCAR. Now I had other relatives that were really into football. Like I had some relatives that were really into like college football, which I thought was bizarre. But and it was like a college that neither of them went to, so I thought that was a little strange. But yeah, so they were like super into it and they go all to the games and stuff. So a lot of times like it'd be on, like if we went to somebody's family's house for Thanksgiving or something, and I was just kind of like, bleh. Like after the 90s, I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna go in a back bedroom and watch Mystery Science Theater Turkey Day Marathon. Bye. I don't really want to like be listening to like fucking sports ball. Zach says, oh god, if you guys could see my dad watching the Colts, you can't hear that man screaming. You can hear that man screaming across the entire house.
I might have been.
I don't get it.
Might have been genetically closer to my dad's dad, my grandfather. I never met him. He died in his fucking early 40s. Fucking pissed off, fucking rooting somebody on over a damn boxing match on television. Get him, get him, get him, get him. And he fucking called his wife, my grandmother. He goes, I don't feel so good. Give me a glass. Can you get me a glass of water? And fucking, she got a glass of water. He came back. He was on the ground. She called the fucking ambulance, and he was dead. Heart attack.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
he died fucking rooting. So.
Well, he died
rooting over.
He
fucking
died doing
fight.
what he loved, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh,
Watching black dudes beat each other up, probably. But he was getting all into it. Fucking. And,
I guess he got like a little excited.
Yeah.
About it.
But he was evidently fucking hilarious though. He was in good shape, so back in those days they didn't do autopsies. They just went, died of something, heart attack.
Oh well.
And not in Mississippi, he was upper middle class too, and fucking worked for the city, which was upper middle class. Fucking.
Well, I mean that's the thing though, and it's like you can.
He must have had some kind of heart defect.
Obviously, it's better to like. Try to eat right and don't smoke and blah, 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 and try to keep in shape. Like, obviously, it's better to do that. Like, your odds are better. But you also don't know what the fuck else could be lurking in there. Like,
he
you could just drop dead anytime.
He wasn't fat. He worked for the...
Well, like I said,
he put all the damn fucking water pipes in and everything, him and his crew, and he'd supervise all the crew and shit like that. And he was doing all the surveying and stuff. And he was in good shape. Died of... Now, it was Southern diet. They drank bacon grease and ate all kinds of crazy shit.
Sure that doesn't
but
help.
he wasn't getting fat or anything, so it couldn't have been that bad. It had to have. People later on, my dad said that he thought, because my dad was at home at the time, he was a kid. He said, looking back on it, he must have had some kind of congenital heart defect.
Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I had an uncle who was in really good shape. He was thin, like muscular, stuff like that. Ate right, exercise, stuff like that. He was dead at 32. Brain tumor.
Brain tumor, yeah.
So
anything can happen.
That's what I mean. Camp Guy said a lot of it is genetics. Yeah.
We knew this big, tall, pretty ass girl from the club. She could have been a damn model. As tall as she was, long, platinum blonde hair. Died of a brain tumor.
28.
28 at a drop of a hat. 1 minute she's there, the next thing we heard 28. She's in the hospital. 2 days later, dead. Brain tumor. They didn't know.
Well, and our friend Kaylee was 34.
Yeah. Cancer ate her up.
Yeah, and she died of cancer.
Yeah, cute.
But yeah, we had a 28-year-old friend too that died of a brain tumor also.
Kaylee was our little lesbian daughter. She was a mooch. But we liked her though. She was fucking cute. She was good. She was real good person.
Well, she wasn't like obnoxious.
No, she wasn't obnoxious. She's just like, can I have some food? Can I have this?
I mean, you didn't have to. She wouldn't get upset if you said no.
Yeah, she said, can you take me to here? Can I come to the club?
Because she didn't have a car.
She didn't have a car.
But
Trailer park girl.
It was on the way.
Yeah.
So I didn't really mind. But she
was fun.
She died when she was 34.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've known a lot of people that died young that seemed like they were in decent shape. Like you wouldn't know looking at them that there was anything wrong.
No.
You know what I mean?
Kaylee was a little half Mexican American girl. She was I told her I showed you pictures before. She had maybe 4'10", maybe 85 pounds.
Yeah, she's tiny little person.
Wear little cat costumes and stuff.
Tiny little person.
Yeah. It was just out of the blue.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad.
Yeah, it just happens. Oh, I don't want to dwell on it.
Yeah, don't bring everybody down, man.
Yeah.
Mike says, you two are great for me when I'm down. Oh, that's nice. Well, we're glad that we're like cheering people up.
Buck up, man. Buck up. Just it's all good. We'll get through it.
I mean, that's why. Well, that's why I try to keep things like fun. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't really want to like bum people out. I know we were just talking about like people dying really young and stuff like that, but you know what I mean? But I try to keep things like kind of fun and like, because I don't want to really. Look, it's like many of my jobs like are all to do with like
people murdering
true crime and people murdering each other and stuff. So it's like a lot of times, I kind of want to keep things fun too. But the weird thing is like for fun, I want to watch horror movies. Yeah. Even though you'd think that I wouldn't want to watch that, like I'd want to watch something else. But I don't know, horror movies and like sad music like cheers me up.
Zach Anderson, that's the other Zach.
The other Zach.
I think that might be the
other
straight
white
Zach.
Zach.
There's a gay Zach, there's a gay Zach, and a straight Zach.
Well, and
I
Zach
think
with an
Anderson
H
is
and
the
Zach
straight-
with a K.
Yeah. I'm gonna just assume that the new Zach is the straight Zach. He go, who's that? I do like to say it, so he knows who the saints are. Yeah.
I mean, would you like that? Would be really funny if we.
I was gonna say
straight Zach and gay Zach.
Yeah, straight and gay Zach. It's like a salt and pepper Zach. The people were talking about Marilyn Manson earlier on, and him and Trent Reznor were living right outside the French Quarter on Esplanade. During the time I'd hang out there all the time, we'd fucking run into him. Boy, that was a fucking weird time. But Manson mentions New Orleans a lot in his fucking book. I recommend it. What he says about it is good, is accurate. But then it turns out that when we came here, our good friend Dimitri knows him, is friends with him, because Marilyn Manson's from here, but they kind of grew up together. Our DJ friend, and it's just kind of funny. It's a small world, and the scene isn't that big. If you move around enough and you fucking hang out with all the old DJs of that era, they all knew each other. So
that's true.
He showed up on the national fucking stage and shit, but he was local here. He was just a local guy. We know a lot of them like that.
Brian.
Yeah.
Zach says, hey, speaking of Beetlejuice, I'm imagining you meant Beetlejuice, even though I get it. You're drunk. You can't type.
Yeah.
Is it true all 80s houses were white and pink and blue and had flower patterns?
No.
That style is uglier than the 70s to me. Honestly, more shit I saw in the 80s was a lot of
wood paneling,
kind of not leather furniture, but like vinyl, fake leather furniture.
Yeah.
A lot of glass and chrome brass.
If it was an expensive newer house.
Yeah.
Everything was right
to be
angles and
honest,
square.
when I grew up, like most of our shit was left over from the 70s. So all of our shit was like green shag carpeting and
that's what I'm saying.
wood paneling.
You saw a lot of 50s and 60s shit
and
in the
mustard
80s
colored beanbag chairs.
The ultimate
and shit like that. Macrame.
The ultimate 80s decor is like the interior decors from the houses that were shown in RoboCop 1. That's the way your house would have looked in the mid to late 80s if you had a lot of money. If you were working at, if you were an executive working for some fucking General Motors or something up in Detroit, it would look like. Remember, what's his name? The guy who made RoboCop, the young corporate executive who was coming up. I forgot the name of that damn character. They show him back at his house before he got blown up with he's hanging out with the fucking girls snorting coke and shit.
Yeah.
The inside of his house, that is the ideal fucking upper mobility, upper middle class fucking 80s house. Chrome, silver, white, gray.
Mirrored walls.
Mirror stuff.
Like mirrored panels on the walls.
Yeah, everything's
and shit
square,
like
right
Because they said,
angles.
it makes your house look bigger.
Yeah, the only thing that was
a big
missing
thing.
was a Patrick Nagel on the fucking wall.
Yeah.
But that would have been there
My
too.
best friend in high school had one of those on her bedroom wall.
Yeah. You could get those
not the
Kmart.
not the Rio one, but
Yeah.
like but one that looked very much like the Rio one, like the one on the cover of Rio. The Duran Duran album, in case you're not old.
But if you were real cool, it would have looked like something out of damn RoboCop.
But my house, I was just watching a video earlier today, which was only like 9 or 10 minutes long, from a channel called, I think it's called Retrospective, or it was something about like what houses used to look like back in the old days. And they had one that was like, I bet you had all of this stuff in your house in the 70s or something like that. So I was like, okay, I'll bite. And like every single thing in there, I'm like, yep, we had that. Yep, we had that too. Yep,
I got a picture of me. I got a picture.
We had all that shit.
I got a picture of me on my back resting, coming back from basic training. On a couch, and fucking one of the subscribers says, "That's your grandma's couch." He fucking nailed it. Everybody's grandma had
Everybody's
that damn
grandma
couch.
had the same couch.
And it was
there weren't that many to pick
places to
from.
buy.
I mean, it's like you basically bought your furniture at like Sears or Penny's or something like that. And so now, like every time I watch some like retro stuff, if I watch stuff that was made back then, or if I watch stuff like nowadays, like Stranger Things or something like that, where they're trying to like recreate it, I'm just always kind of like, oh my god, my aunt had that couch, or like, you know what I mean? It's always, or it's like, oh my mom had those dishes.
Yep.
You know? Yeah.
And the couch,
they got it right.
It was almost Western looking. It was a white couch with fucking orange fucking patterns on it and fucking laminated wood. There was no It was fucking funny, man, because it was the end of the Cold War. Or no, the Cold War was still on, actually, at the time the photo was taken. And it was communism versus capitalism, but they looked a lot alike.
They did, yeah.
Capitalism just looked like high-end communism.
Man, if you'd have said that back then, they
got mad back then. But when you went into a department store, it was the same shit over and over and over. And everybody had the same shit over and over.
Everybody had the same dishes and couches. And
it was an industrial strength capitalism. One size fits all. Boom. You know, it's like everybody had shit, but it all was the same shit. And then they would encourage people to pack their houses full of little knickknacks, and they'd have shelves of little fucking garbage and shit, especially like old people, like boomer bling and fucking pre-boomer bling. Just put a bunch of shit in your house. Let it pile up. Little statues of crap, you know. They were big into that. Fucking crazy. And then my grandma's house was like that. It was just nothing but plates and fucking little collector's things and little figurines and fucking little things on little tiny shelves. You got to install little shelves to put fucking little things and trinkets on it. When she died, all that shit ended up on the damn front fucking lawn. The garbage came and got it. But that was like her treasure. But it's just like, because they didn't have internet. So what did you buy? You just bought little trinkets. It was a bitch, man. Fucking, they get you to buy anything back then.
Camp Guy said our local Sears was cool. Had a garden center where they sold lawnmowers. Yeah, ours did too. And a tire center. And they sold the Boy Scout uniforms and lots of stuff like canteens, mess kits. Yeah, I think when I was in Girl Scouts, because I was in Girl Scouts when I was in the 4th grade. Yeah, I think I got my Girl Scout uniform at... It was either Sears or Penny's, I can't remember. But yeah, they had like a whole section in the back where you could buy like all the like Brownie uniforms and Boy Scout and Girl Scout
Society's function was to sell you trinkets and junk back then. And technology that you didn't need and you never had no use for it. It was weird.
The other Zach says, watching Winona Ryder play a mom slowly losing her mind in Stranger Things is something else. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm just really glad that she got that role because she's fucking great in it. I mean, that's like really, really good casting, I think.
No, the couch wasn't wrapped in plastic, man. I'll show the couch one.
I have been to some houses where the couches were wrapped in plastic, though, absolutely. But our house, it wasn't. But we did have, my grandma's house, you did have the front room with the TV, and that was like the casual room, and then there was like the formal living room where you weren't really supposed to hang out in there. Yeah, although we did later on.
Mike Barris says RoboCop 1 was the fucking best 80s action movie of all time. Changed my mind. He goes, no, I'm not going to change your mind.
I'm not going to change your mind. I don't disagree.
It was up there. It was up there.
I mean, there was a lot of good ones.
There's a lot of good ones. Predator.
I'm not going to argue if
Terminator.
You want to say RoboCop was the best one.
RoboCop was the craziest one and the most accurate as how insane the 80s were. The outer edge, the cutting edge of the 80s were fucking insane. Toxic waste. Fucking planned obsolescence. Fucking, they talked about the whole thing. Corporate greed and fucking backstabbing. Fucking disintegrating fucking Detroit. All that shit was accurate. Yeah. Fucking happening during a crime wave. Experimental technology mixed with fucking criminal activity. It was, that's exactly the way cutting edge fucking 80s was. It was insane.
All right, so can we actually get to this episode or what? Okay. Zach says, I also thought it was kind of funny how the dad's name in this episode is Johnson, but the dude playing him, the actor, looks like a super nice Jewish boy-ish.
You and your attraction to Jewish men. You and you're attracted to cute Jewish men.
He did kind of. I mean, like, I don't know, but yeah, he did kind of.
For those of you who are new to the show, Zach he's irresistibly attracted to cute Jewish boys, is what he said. Men. I won't call them boys, but he likes.
Yeah, don't say that. That has a whole different connotation.
Like these are underage. They're not underage. He just likes young Jewish kind of guys. They're more trustworthy, I guess. Those fucking, they're so innocent, right? Innocent and nerdy.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean,
that's what he's after.
You think?
I think so.
I kind of like nerdy too. Well, I mean, it depends. It depends on what kind of nerdy it is.
Brainy, nerdy.
I also like brainy and nerdy. But it depends on what kind of brainy and nerdy it is too. Yeah. I don't want to be like hanging out with one of those people that's brainy and nerdy, but then actually is every second.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't want to be with one of those kind of people.
Yeah. But we even know who you're talking about.
Yeah, you know who I'm
I know exactly who you're talking about. Little Matt.
Shh.
Well, actually, man, Matt, get the fuck away from me. Fuck out of here. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I mean. There's
He's
one
not
thing
young anymore.
Well, that's what I mean. He's probably our age, probably.
Yeah, no, he's mid-30s now.
Okay, but yeah, I'm just saying. I don't, like I said, I don't have a problem with like smart or nerdy or anything like that because I'm into that too. But yeah, just don't use it to like lord it over other people. I don't like that. I don't like arrogance or.
Well, some people use it to compensate.
Well, yeah, that's exactly why. But that doesn't make it any easier to put up with. Even though I know the reason that they're doing that.
That big pretty chick that looked like a model who died of brain tumor was his ex. Or, well, they broke up after then she died, but that was his girlfriend. It was funny because he's 5 feet tall and she was like 6'1".
Yeah, I mean, I
think he was 5 feet, wasn't he?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I think he was.
I'm pretty sure he's shorter than I am, and I'm pretty
He's
short.
fucking way short, yeah.
I'm only 5'2", 5'3", maybe. All right, so are we finally going to talk about the episode? Let's finally
do what
talk
you
about
gotta
the
do.
episode.
Do what you gotta do.
Oh, may I?
I'm looking at your legs. Your legs get building up. You're looking good.
Can we focus or?
No, I ain't gonna focus. Focus on that ass.
He can't focus.
Go ahead. All right, go ahead.
All right. So today we are talking about, finally, we kind of talked about it earlier, Echoes of the Past. I kept wanting to say Echoes from the Past, but no. There's another episode that's called Echoes from the Grave, which is a different one.
Right.
So that's my theory, is that the makers of The Haunting had, you know those magnetic poetry things, like the little kits that you can buy, and they're little magnets, and you stick them on your fridge, and you can, like, change all the words around? I kind of feel like they had that, but like a paranormal versions that are just like echoes, grave, demon, like all this other, and they would like just move all the words around. I kind of feel like. But yeah, so this was called Echoes of the Past. This is season 4, episode 8. So we're talking about Libby and Sean Johnson, and yes, those are their real names, and both of them turn up on the show. So they had actually lived in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which is about 4 hours south of here? Something like that. It's down by Miami. And they moved to Chester, Vermont in 2005 with their 2 daughters, Grace and Willa. Couldn't really tell how old the kids were. I don't know, 8-ish, something like that. So Libby is on there saying, man, this house, and like I said, I've seen the real house. The house that's on the show is like a lot nicer than it. The house that's on the show is like all brick. And the real one is more, I don't know if it's wood, but it's not brick, that's for sure. So she says the house needs at least $200,000 worth of work just to make it livable. I'm not really sure what her definition of livable is, but I've seen the house and I'm just like, yeah, it was probably like in pretty bad condition. Because like I said, I looked it up on Zillow and it was built in the 1790s. It's a big house and it has like a mother-in-law apartment and stuff like that. But it's been renovated so far, but it's not like, it's not super in good condition. So she says it needs $200,000 worth of work just to make it livable. Sean is all about it though. He's like, oh, we're going to fix it all up. And I was just like, okay, well, your money. So they buy it. Now, Libby decides to go back to work. I mean, obviously, because now they need extra money. And I'm assuming that she was being a stay-at-home mom like prior to this. So she gets a job as a secretary at the elementary school, which if it was the one that is on the same street that they were on, is like literally 3 houses down. Now, Sean actually owns a car dealership. But it said he largely works from home. And I was just kind of like, can you run a car dealership from home? I guess you can. But, I mean, as long as if you have other people managing it, I guess you can.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's okay.
Got people out on the lot running it? Yeah.
Yeah. So the house actually undergoes 10 months of construction or renovation. Now, from what I could determine, for some of that time, the family actually remained in their 2-bedroom apartment, like because they couldn't really live in it, like while all the shit was going on. So one day, on her lunch hour, Libby comes by from work to check on what's being done in the house. Now, one of the workmen has found this kind of like cache of like old photos and documents and stuff like that behind some boards in the attic, either behind the wall or the ceiling or some shit like that. They were like tearing some stuff out and they found a bunch of stuff back there. Now, this is dating from like Civil War era or maybe a little after that. So she's like she's like, ooh, neat. And she like, gathers it all up and keeps it because she thinks it's like really interesting. So March of 2006. The family move into the house. Now, the renovations aren't quite done yet, but close enough. You know what I mean? Now, Sean and Libby are very, very excited about moving into the place, but the kids, particularly Grace, don't like it. They say it's too big and it's too scary. We're not having it. And so there's that. Now, the girls have actually been sleeping in the parents' room because the floor in their room isn't done yet. Now, the first thing pretty much that happens is that the little girls are sleeping like on kind of like a pallet or something like that, like on the floor in the parents' room. And Grace sort of wakes up and leaps up from the floor and starts screaming at the door, like, get away, get away, get away, like that. Now, later they said she was freaking out. And later she said that she saw somebody coming into the room. What they said it was like a man. She called it strange looking eyes. I don't know what that means because I don't know. Strange looking is a pretty vague term.
Yeah.
But yeah, she said a man with strange looking eyes was coming into the room, like coming at her, and it scared her and she was like yelling at it. So there's that. Now, at first, like I said, obviously they just think, oh, she was having a nightmare and they just kind of like write it off. Later that same night, though, at least according to the show, they all start hearing, or at least Libby and Sean start hearing like doors slamming.
Yeah.
Now, Sean goes out to check, but nothing is amiss. Like, nothing is weird. It's like he goes out in the hall, and he's like, I heard doors slamming, like, in the hallway, but none of the doors were slamming.
Yeah, and the way they show him in the episode is he's standing there in the hallway, hearing doors slamming, looking at the doors, and none of them are opening and closing. It was creepy in the episode. Yeah.
That would be pretty weird if you heard like doors slamming and it sounded like it was right there and then you're standing right there and nothing is happening. That would be pretty creepy, I would imagine.
Kind of checks out with some of the more credible cases I heard, like auditory, I don't want to say hallucinations, but auditory phenomenon.
Yeah, that's what this would be. Because he's like, they very clearly, it was just one time and then another time and then it started doing it like a bunch and he just like went out there and he's like, what the fuck? And he went like all around the house and he's like, we very clearly like heard door slamming, but we didn't see any door slamming, so it was a little bit weird. So he goes back to Libby and it's like, yeah, nothing's going on. Now, Libby finds it particularly weird that neither of the girls, like I said, they were both sleeping in the same room with them. They climbed up in the bed at this point, like after they had like the whole man coming into the room experience. And they didn't wake up, though, even though they said it was really loud, like all the door slamming and stuff like that. But the little girls like didn't wake up through that whole thing, which seems a little strange. So Libby thought it was a little strange. So a week later, oh, thank you. Did you put more ice in that?
Just ice.
Okay. So the girls' room is done a week later. Like I said, I'm pretty sure they were installing a new floor, so that's what they were waiting for. So a week later, the girls move into their own room. So Libby's in there reading to them, before they go to sleep or whatever. Now, afterward, Grace was, like I said, on this show, she was maybe 8 or 9, I'm thinking, at least the actress playing her. They didn't have, the only people that were talking on this show, like in real life, were the parents and a couple of the paranormal investigators, or at least one of the paranormal investigators. So Grace apparently hears a little girl in her room giggling and maybe not sees 2 ghost girls. Like I said, Grace is not on the show, so I don't know what she saw exactly, but on the show they portray it's like she hears like 2 little girls laughing and then sees 2 little ghost girls. Now, Sean, the dad, also apparently hears girls giggling and it wakes him up. Like, so he thinks it's the kids. But he says, as soon as I got up and went to the bedroom door, like my bedroom door, and opened it, the voices stopped. And then when he went and checked on his daughters, they're both fast asleep, so it wasn't them. So at that point, he's like, okay, well, I just thought maybe I left the TV on, or maybe I was dreaming, or what the fuck ever. Like, he didn't really want to, like, deal with it. Now, the next morning, Libby goes into the room to wake the little girls up. And she sees, like, a puzzle done, like, on the floor of the girls' room. Even though the previous night, Grace had been like, man, I hate puzzles and I don't want to do one. And Grace is also still asleep in bed, even though it's time to get up for school. Like, normally, like, her sister Willa had already got up and got dressed and was, like, ready to go and everything. So Libby wakes her up, like, what the hell? And Grace said, oh, last night there were two, what she called fairies in the room. And they were the ones that did the puzzle. She's like, I didn't do it. She also said that the fairies played with her all night. Hence why she was still asleep, I guess, because these fairies had kept her awake all night. So Libby asked, well, what do the fairies look like? And Grace said, well, they had white dresses and white stockings, and they had ribbons in their hair. And then she says, like, and I know people that have kids that, like, their kids say creepy shit like this. Apparently Grace said, they live under the tree in the yard, like, out the window. Yeah, like, when she looks out the window, she's like, yeah, they live under that tree. I'd be like, yeah, I would shit a brick if my kid said that. That's super, super creepy. But yeah, it's like, well, I know that kids say creepy shit like that all the time, and it doesn't necessarily mean your shit's haunted, but yeah, that's what she said. They live under the tree in the yard. Now, one night, it gets kind of chilly outside, and this is Vermont, so I'm guessing it's kind of cold out. So Sean decides he's going to make a fire in the fireplace, and apparently this is the first time he's done this since they've moved in, because I think when they moved in, it was spring, so I guess this is like fall now. So he starts to make the fire, and Grace flips the fuck out. She says, you have to put it out, it's going to burn the whole house down, she says. So she was just like not having it, and she was beside herself. Now, a few days after that, Libby's putting laundry away in the girls' room, and then she also hears the giggling. Now, at first, she thinks that it's her kids, Grace and Willa. She thinks they're in the room or hiding or something like that. But she goes downstairs, and she finds them. They're actually way downstairs, like at the kitchen table, coloring. So it obviously wasn't them. Now, Grace has drawn a picture of their house on fire. And Libby is actually pretty disturbed by this. She's like, why would you draw something like that? And then Grace says, I'm afraid that you and Daddy are going to die in a fire because that's what happened to the fairies, Mom and Dad. Again, I would shit a brick if my kid said this to me because that's pretty fucking creepy.
It's like the two little girls from fucking Shining. When they showed it in the episode, that's kind of what they were.
I thought of that too. That's definitely what they were homaging, I think. They weren't as creepy as that, but because those little girls were creepy.
Come play with us.
Yeah, forever and ever and ever. Yeah.
If you read the book, then you'll know the whole secret behind all that shit.
I know, but that makes it less scary to me. I feel like that's me. Camp Guy said I would check my smoke detectors. Well, yeah. So at this point, Libby's like, okay, maybe this house is haunted. Even though she said that she was like real skeptical and scientific and normally wouldn't believe in that kind of thing. But she's just kind of like, maybe there is something to this. So she takes all the photos and the documents and stuff that she found to the Historical Society. Now, the guy there can't find any particular evidence that there was ever a fire on the property. But they do find this weird picture. And the guys in the picture are like veterans from the Civil War. It's apparently what it is. It's like the 50th anniversary of like the Battle of Gettysburg. And so these are like the guys that had fought in it, and they all came to this like get together, and they're sitting there. So it's all a bunch of old dudes. Now in the picture, behind the old dudes are two little girls with white dresses and stockings with ribbons in their hair.
That's them.
Now, the Historical Society guy said, look how weird, like, the little girls look in this picture. Like, they don't belong there. I think he said something like, oh, they just, like, looked like they'd been dropped in there. Like, they weren't really in the picture. Or it was just, like, added later or something like that. Blockfrog said, is this the one where the dad sleeps in the kid's room one night and sees the two fairies and he's freaked the fuck out? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Hey, Pookie's on the show.
Pookie's walking around.
Pookie's on the show.
You gonna relax? No?
She's like, no, I'm not. I'm going to go tear some shit up. I'm going to go tear some shit up.
She came up to me, but she didn't want to relax.
No. She wants you to
She wants me to stop.
She wants you to stop and go brush her or chase her. And
she wants me to go in the living room and throw things.
Throw to Mousies. Throw her chicken.
Yeah, I got a little chicken and a mouse and a little square. It's a little square pillow. And she catches them.
It jingles.
She's like, come, let's throw. Stop talking to the lights. Because these are just lights to her. She doesn't
she doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Arezo A says, "Hi, Tom and Jenny and everyone. It's been a while since I've been able to catch a live stream, but I love these Haunting Mondays."
Who is this?
Thank you. Arezo.
Okay, yeah, I remember her.
Mike said, "What year did this happen?" 2000. What?
No, 2004, right?
2006?
2006.
You're way off.
No, 2005 is when it started.
No, that's when they bought the house. They didn't actually move into it until 2006.
Okay.
So, yeah. So there's this whole thing. Zach said those girls in the pic look so badly photoshopped. Yeah, they did. So, yeah, they were trying to make it look... I don't know what the real photo looks like or if there even was a real photo. I'm just going by what they said.
That's the thing
show.
about a haunting. A haunting will tell you a good story, but they won't show you the actual source material, so it can't be
it's
that
like,
good.
let me see this picture. Like, did those little girls really look like they didn't belong in the photo? Like, they're just like, hey, we're ghosts or whatever. Because that would have been creepy.
The best series for showing the actual source material so far is Paranormal Witness. Paranormal Witness will show you the actual photo.
Although that got like stupid and crazy.
Yeah, that got stupid.
They're just like, look, there's a werewolf outside my cabin. I'm like, no, there's not.
That was like season 2 or 3. It started to go down pretty. But that first season of Paranormal Witness was pretty solid.
Danny Rolling said, I don't know why the mom asked the old guy who the girls were as if he would know because he's old. It's like, weren't you alive during the Civil War? Who are these people? But yeah, so there was that. So the little girls apparently like look odd in this photo. Like I said, I can't really speak to that because I haven't seen it in real life.
Well, I think they photoshopped the girls from the actual episode.
Well, obviously that's what they did for the show.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I don't know.
It probably didn't look that good. They didn't look good. It
never does.
Cool.
That's why they never show it. So then later on, Libby shows Grace the photo. And Grace immediately goes, hey, that's the fairies. Like right there in the photo. And she's like, that's what I thought. Now, Sean, at this point, the dad doesn't really want to deal with it. Libby's kind of scared, but figures, well, maybe everything will be okay because the ghosts don't really seem malicious. And Grace doesn't seem particularly scared of them. Like, she just kind of sees them as maybe playmates. So they don't seem to be doing anything like really fucked up. Like they don't seem to be like throwing anything around or doing like demonic shit or anything. So they're just like, well, maybe it'll be okay. So at this point, like I said, Libby starts keeping a diary of all the paranormal activity that's happening, and she really like I said, she's very scientifically minded, so she's kind of like trying to note every factor that might be affecting what they're seeing. Like, what was the weather like that day? How was everybody feeling that day? Like, what exactly did you see? And all this other kind of stuff. And then she's trying to do all that, and then Sean's trying to watch the game, and he's like, "Shut up, woman," blah blah blah. So there was how all that happened, like when Zach said earlier. So while that's going on, though, and he's telling her to shut up because he's watching the game, him and Libby hear a thump coming from upstairs. So Libby goes up to the girl's room, and she said she felt like she was being watched. Like she was kind of like facing toward the window, like away from the door of the room, and she's like, I felt like something was watching me. So she turned around, and she said that she saw a black figure behind her. Now, on the show, they made it look like a little shadow of like a little girl. I don't know if that's what she saw. She just said it was a black figure. So it might have been a full-size figure. It might have been a man. It might have been anything. But on the show, they made it look like a little shadow of like a little girl. So she said she saw the black figure, and she said... And she actually did say this. She said it moved faster than anything else she'd ever seen. She said it darted under the bed.
Yeah,
so,
I remember it all. Yeah,
she said that. So she turned around, she saw it standing there, and like wigged out. And she said it like went psh, and like darted under the bed. So at this point, Libby's like, "Fuck this shit. I don't even care if it's like not malicious or not. This is scaring the shit out of me. So we're gonna get rid of these fucking ghosts because, So she goes to a store. This part, like, I don't know why this made me laugh so much, but she goes to like kind of like a new agey kind of store to buy some smudge sticks, and she said she was really embarrassed to like go there and buy them. And I love the actor. Shout out to the actor that played
the dude that
was like the proprietor of the store. Who looked exactly like
man.
Who looked like the quintessential stoner, and it's just like and he was just kind of like, what? Yeah, you want smudge sticks? Okay, whatever. Like he wasn't judging.
Do you want the smudge sticks? You want the baggage? Got ghosts? Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it's like, wait, I don't know.
Blessing, yeah, sure.
Shit happens all the time.
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny because I was like, 99 times out of 100, you go into a shop like that and just be like, hey, I need some smudge sticks. No one's going to like think anything about it.
That's what they sell. Yeah.
That's what they sell, and you're coming in there to buy it. So
You're
they're not
going
going to
there,
be like,
I think I got some ghosts. And they go, oh, yeah.
oh, shit.
Yeah, everybody's got ghosts. Yeah.
Yeah, here we get to get that and that
Put
and
that
that.
on there. That'll fine. Take care of them. That'll drive them right out.
That'll take care of
Drive them right out. I know somebody to come see you to help you. That's what they do.
Yeah. Like I said, no one's gonna judge.
Everywhere.
No one's gonna judge you or like think you're weird or nothing.
They had
like
that shit fucking near fucking in Cambridge, fucking Cambridge, Massachusetts, right there, fucking where fucking Harvard is and everything. They had one of those shops, and fucking they had all the kind of like weird occult Wiccan shit and everything in there.
Shit,
they were waiting for somebody that said that they had a ghost.
Yeah, they got all kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, you gotta go. Oh, no problem. Yeah, we'll give you this. Yeah, they had that was back in the fucking mid '90s. It may not be there anymore.
Well, yeah, like I said, even where I grew up in like stupid old Daytona Beach, for a little while, like right a mile from my house that I could actually like walk to, there was a little bitty little witchcraft store just like that.
Some goth girls working in there.
Yeah.
Cambrielle, fucking one of the girls. She's remember Cambrielle? She worked at
She's a fashion designer.
Fashion designer. Yeah, you know who that is.
Of course I do.
I used to fucking run into her all the time at fucking Man Ray.
I bought some of her clothes.
Okay. Yeah, Cambrielle was like, she was like Kaylee's size, little bitty.
Yeah.
Little bitty thing.
She made some beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Like she was real into like old like Victorian and medieval stuff.
Yeah, medieval stuff.
Which I liked more than kind of like.
Cambrielle worked at one of those.
The one that I used to go to was actually owned by a Wiccan couple.
Yeah.
They were slightly older.
Yeah.
I think they were a little bit older than me, but yeah, they were a married couple.
Yeah. She'll sell you some smudge sticks and all that fucking some special magic candles and shit.
Yeah.
Is there anything to this? No. But here's the thing. It's just like with any of the religions.
I mean, I'm not done, so
I'm just going to say faith is very powerful. If you believe in something, your fucking energy can sometimes drive these other energies away. That's a good way to fucking kind of put it. You know what I mean? So if you believe it, and sometimes it may happen, like what they would call sympathetic kind of magic. Yeah,
sure.
There's something like that. Yeah.
But yeah, so she goes in and buys sage, and she said she was real embarrassed about it. But I'm like, no one's judging you. It's fine. So then, and she said after she came in and smudged the house, like the dad like took the kids out. It's like, hey, let's go ride some bikes out at the park so your mom can get rid of the ghosts or whatever. I'm sure he didn't say that. But so she goes in there and she does it. And she said it worked for a couple of weeks. Like they didn't really have any activity for like a couple of weeks. But then Grace ends up getting sick. I don't think it was anything serious. It was just like a tummy ache or some shit like that. And both the girls decide that they want to sleep in the room with their mom, with Libby. So Sean says, okay, well, I'm going to go sleep in the little girl's room then, and he sleeps in Grace's bed. Now, during the night, apparently he wakes up and he said that it felt like the sheets and the blankets were like being pulled down tight onto him so he couldn't move. Like there was all this weight, like somebody was like pulling him down like that. Now, on the show, they showed a bunch of ghosts appearing and asking him where Grace was and stuff. It's like, what the fuck are you doing in here? We just came in here to like play with your daughter, and now your ugly ass is in here in the bed, and like they got mad. I don't know. But I don't know if he really saw that. He did say that he felt like he couldn't move because the sheets were like pulled down like taut against his body. That's what he said. Yeah. He was yelling at the ghost though. Apparently, because Libby heard him yelling at the ghost and like came running down the hall like, why are you like, what are you doing? Like, why are you yelling? So like it woke her up and she came down like the hall to see what was going on. So the day after that, I guess that like freaked him out enough, and it's like, yeah, he believes it now. So now we're allowed to bring in the paranormal investigators. So Libby contacts ISIS Investigations, probably in hindsight not a great name, but so it's a bunch of Wiccans, bringing in the Wiccans. There's 4 of them, I think, right? 3. I think it was 3 ladies and 1 guy.
It was just a crowd of them.
It was just a bunch of them, of Wiccans. a gaggle of Wiccans.
All the same, yeah.
So they show up. Now Libby says that she's immediately impressed. They all seem to hone in on that tree in the yard that Grace had said earlier that's where the fairies lived,
Makes
like
me wanna
underneath
know,
that
was
tree.
Suggested to him though.
See, I kind of thought that too, because I think they kind of let it slip later, and I don't know, maybe I'm just like reading into it, but I think because on the show, Libby says to one of the Wiccans like later on, "Oh, those are the two little girls I told you about." So I don't know if she, and like I said, I know it's a reenactment, so I don't know how much of that is like fucking real or not, but it's like how much of the house's history, or like, oh, my daughter's seeing these two little girls, blah blah blah, like how much of that did she tell them ahead of time?
Right.
So how much of that could, because I kind of feel like if you're gonna have paranormal investigators, don't tell them shit.
Right. Let them figure it out.
Let's see how
Don't
psychic
suggest.
you are. Let's see how psychic you
Yeah.
are. I'm keeping my mouth shut.
Right.
I just want to see how like psychic you are.
Yeah.
But she said that she was impressed that they all went to the tree, and they were like, "Oh yeah, some bad shit like happened by this tree." And like I said, that's pretty much what the same. I mean, they were assuming that these two little girls were buried under the tree, or like they get killed, or something like that. That's what they were assuming. Now there was a scene here where one of the investigators, Justin, and I don't know if that's his real name or not. He's shown hearing a male voice going, "Stay away," which was actually like pretty creepy. That was a good moment. But he wasn't on the show, so I don't know if that really happened or if they just added that because they wanted to make it scarier. It was scary. It was good, but I don't know if that really happened or not. Now, another one of the investigators, whose name is Angela. She's not. I think the only investigator that was on the show was the one that named Patricia. Like I said, who the woman that they had playing her on the show was like super young and hot, but then like the actual woman was like older. Let's say it that way. I'm not going to be as mean as Zach and say she looked like E.T., but she was like much older than the actress that was portraying her. So another one of the investigators, whose name was Angela, she sits down in the girls' room and she starts drawing. She said, "Well, my psychic visions come to me like, you know, as visions, so I draw them." And so she starts drawing stuff, and she ends up drawing a picture of like two little girls that look very much like the two little girls from the Civil War era photo, which, like I said, which would be really impressive if you hadn't told her jack shit about this house.
Yeah.
And if it was really hard to get information about the history of this house. Because you can do that too. I know it was maybe like harder back in like the mid 2000s, but you know, especially nowadays, you can find out pretty much anything. Like I said, I found out where this actual house was and looked at it, you know, on Google Street View. So I don't know. I don't know how much they told the Wiccans like before they got there. So I don't know how impressed to be about this, that she drew like two little girls. And then the other psychics also said, "Oh yeah, we also sense two little girls." But like I said, she might have told them that ahead of time. I don't really know. Now apparently the cat toy, and it's not like a toy for cats. It was a toy that looked like a cat. It was one of those toys. I kind of feel like there was a lot of it kind of looked like a real cat, but like I guess you turn it on like with batteries or something, and it like does real cat stuff. Like it goes meow and like kind of moves and stuff. It was one of those. So that came on by itself, and they were like, "Oh, see, that's like that's the ghost telling us that they're there, like moving around the cat toy or whatever."
I went and checked on Cambrio. Boy, her fucking site is huge now. I didn't know she was famous.
Yeah.
Damn.
I mean, shit. I
knew about her.
Yeah, of course. She was in all the magazines.
Yeah.
And she was in all the.
That's how she looked. That's how she looked when I knew her.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, this is how she looked when I knew her.
Like I said, she had all kind of like nice clothes. She's
Yeah.
really into like Victorian and
Like
medieval
Victorian
stuff,
medieval stuff. Yeah.
which I'm more into that.
She has a huge site. It's spelled with a K.
Yeah.
Cambrio.
Thank you, Camp Guy.
Yeah.
Awesome show. Awesome
Yeah.
T-shirts. Got 5 shirts now.
She was when she was at the club. She showed up. That's how she looked.
Yeah.
This is oh shit.
Jesus.
God damn it.
What are you doing?
This is how she looked at the club when she showed up back in the 90s. She was cute. Cambrio. Fucking funny how we brought that up and that we knew who that was.
Well, yeah, of course I knew who
You
that
never
was.
mentioned her before.
Yeah, I knew who that was.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think I bought a couple of her clothes.
She hung out at Man Race.
couple of her
She was cool. She was cool.
Yeah. Zach says, "Hey, I'm not mean. Shut up." No,
yeah.
Kidding. I'm a cunt.
Thank you very much, Camp Guy. Thank you very much, bro.
Yeah. Danny Rolling said cat version of a Furby. Kinda.
Yeah.
It looked like a real cat, sort of. Like, it looked like the Uncanny Valley version of a cat. Like, it didn't look like a cat, but it kind of did. But in a way that was kind of, like, unsettling. So let's say that. So the psychics are basically like, okay, you guys have an ass ton of ghosts in this house. That's a scientific term, by the way.
Ass ton, yeah.
An ass ton.
A metric ass ton.
It's a metric ass ton of ghosts in this house.
Exactly.
And they basically say, in a very victim-blamey kind of way, did you guys do a bunch of renovations in here? And they're like, yeah, should we not have done that?
This is fucking epic.
Oh, bitch.
This is fucking epic.
In
the episode, the girl, the woman playing the main Wiccan, when she goes, did you do renovations? She goes, yes, we did. And she goes like,
yeah, she did. She
made a face. It's fucking hilarious.
Just like that.
It's hilarious.
I'm like, don't you victim blame?
Yeah, she's like,
what are they supposed to do? You couldn't live in it.
And it's fucking funny because...
Fucking ghosts, they're ethereal. They don't have to, like, worry about plumbing and shit.
You know the actress is hamming it the fuck up, too.
Sure.
She's like, you stupid bitch.
Yeah, she basically made a face like, you stupid bitch.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
Why did you do
You should have just, like, lived in it the way it was.
Yeah.
With no modern electricity or plumbing.
I'm sure Zach knows what we're talking about. Zach, go ahead. Fucking testify, bitch. Put that shit in the fucking comments section.
Her face was great.
Her face was like, you stupid bitch.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. It was fucking hilarious.
Because we both laughed like when I saw it. I was like, oh my god, that's so mean. Like I said, what are you supposed to do?
Like, you should have known.
It's going to stir the ghosts up.
Stirring ghosts up.
You put in modern toilets in the shit.
That's right.
All of a sudden, ghosts everywhere. But yes,
you brought this shit on yourself.
That's
what she's fucking.
That's
saying.
implied.
That's basically what's
implied. That's implied.
Brought that shit on yourself.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's what made me laugh about it. That's what made me laugh. So after that, after they made them feel bad about doing renovations on the house they just spent, and I should say too that Libby on this show, she basically says the renovations ended up costing more than the house cost to buy. And I'm sure she was probably like, thanks, Sean. Although, like I said, it looks like they're still married, so I'm not going to get too much into that. But yeah, because I think they still live there.
Zach goes, oh my god, that fucking performance was Oscar worthy. Yeah, it was. She looked like you dumb bitch. You brought that shit on your fucking self.
I mean, everybody knows that.
Should have known.
Everybody knows that. You renovate shit in your house, and then the ghosts, they just like ooze out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
Like fucking ectoplasm. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. All the ghosts got stirred up. She's like, you have so many fucking ghosts in here. I can't even. So all the Wiccans, they're like, okay, we're going to do like a whole magic circle thing. You guys know what a magic circle is. It's like, protection.
Kind of like a circle jerk. Fucking Zach can tell you all about it.
It's like an occult circle jerk with less fluids. So yeah. So they're like, well, we'll do that like for protection or whatever. And then we're going to do a crossing ceremony to make the ghost, pass on to where they're supposed to be. Now, as I said, I kind of feel like this was kind of like a happy fuzzy episode because none of the ghosts were demons or none of them like were kicking anyone's ass or none of them were like all that malevolent. You know what I mean? Like I can see that maybe, I mean, assuming all of this shit is real, but it's like you wouldn't want your kids like playing with ghost girls because you don't know like what the fuck they're capable of and they could do like some... they could do some bad supernatural shit, but I don't know. It felt like nothing. The ghosts in this weren't mean. They didn't seem mean. They just seemed. I mean, it was scary because it'd be scary because it's a ghost, but they didn't really do anything like particularly malevolent or destructive or anything like that. Which, like I said, it's kind of a change. It was kind of refreshing, I thought. But, I guess because they were hanging out in the house and they're like, well, they probably shouldn't be here. They're causing a little bit of a disturbance. So we're going to do like a crossing ceremony. So they do that. Now, I don't know. I didn't really get a lot of feedback from the actual people, like what happened like during this thing. But on the thing when they were doing the crossing ceremony, because they always make it look like way more dramatic than I'm sure it actually was. Because I'm sure in real life, they're all just like standing around in a room like chanting and like absolutely nothing is happening. But on the show, they always kind of made it, they made it so like they heard a bunch of like thumping noises that they couldn't really explain. But other than that, it didn't really seem, they didn't really do any like wind or like demonic voices or nothing like that. It was just like some thumping noises. And then and then they had all the ghosts, like each ghost, like the two girls came and they kind of like, hey, here's these ghosts. And then, whoosh, and then here's this Civil War soldier that hasn't played into the story at all. And then like, hey, here I am. Whoosh. then like he goes up into the sky or
with
whatever.
His weird head movements.
With his weird head movements, yeah. So there was that whole thing. So each ghost kind of came and got its. Here's like this random old lady that we haven't talked about, and it's like there she goes up into the sky and everything like that.
Yeah, they're like kicking him the fuck out of here. Like get the fuck.
They're evicting. All right, fine, we're going. We didn't like it here anyway since you got like modern plumbing.
Yo, bitches.
Yeah, we're going. But yeah. So other than that, everything seems to go off without a hitch. Most of the ghosts, not all of them, they said, well, yeah, most of them are gone. And I'd be like, most of them? What do you mean most of them? They said, get rid of all of them. I hired you to get rid of all of them. But so most of the ghosts cross over into what they call the Summerlands. The Summerlands, which I guess is like the afterlife for Wiccans. But the thing about it, though, I said this when we were watching the show, too. I'm like, fuck Summerlands. I want Winterlands. I don't want to go to, like, the afterlife and it be fucking summer all the time. Fuck that shit. I'm not going. I'm not going if it's like that. So after that, the Wiccans did the job, gotta say. Everything returned to normal. Now, there's a little coda at the end here. A little while later, they dig up the tree in the yard, the fateful tree, because they're going to put in an addition on the house. And when they dig up the tree underneath it, they find like a burned brick foundation, like a little bit of a burned brick foundation, some burned wood beams, and some burned clothing. As though there really had been a fire at some point, even though they couldn't really find any record of it. Like I said, it might have been a really long time ago. They didn't find any bones, so, you know, I don't know if anybody's buried there. But it did look like, at least according to the show, it did look like there had been a fire, just like the little girl thought there was. That's what was underneath the tree, was what looked like the foundation of an old house that had, like, burned down. So there was that. They did find some burned shit. Now, I will say, okay, I couldn't find out much about this house otherwise. Now, I did find out what the actual address of the actual house was, but I don't really want to say it on a public live stream. Although I will mention that the show, the episode, absolutely did say what street the house was on, and the street that they said that it was on, that's the street that it's on, okay? So, and it's just offhand, like, I don't think most people would even notice it because it wasn't, like, part of one of the big main things, but I heard it because I was like, oh, did they just say what street it was on? I wonder if that's real. So then, like, I looked it up, I'm like, oh my God, it is. So I found it. So if you really wanted to, and like I said, the names of the people on here are absolutely their real names. So if you wanted to find this address, you absolutely could. So I found it in about 5 minutes and looked at the actual house. And as far as I could determine, this family does still live there. They still own the house. So like I said, the house was built in the 1790s. Now, the only other thing that I found about this house, which I thought was kind of interesting, there is a forum called City Data, and I guess you can go on there, like, whatever city you live in, like, like, residents of that city can, like, talk about, like, various things that are going on in there. So I found the City Data forum for Chester, Vermont, which is where this house is. Now, there was a post from 2016, and somebody claimed that they had just rewatched this show. And somebody's car alarm is going off outside.
Man, this isn't a place where car alarms.
What's a car? Who the fuck has car alarms?
They have car alarms in this area.
Yeah, somebody's car alarm was going off. So, so somebody said, "Oh, I just rewatched this episode the other day." Like I said, this was 2016. They posted this, and they said, "Oh, well, I heard that Sean's car dealership, the one that he managed, wasn't doing too well, or that they had some money problems, or that they were being investigated by the IRS or some shit like that." And they only made up the story about the haunting to, you know, get some publicity and maybe make some money off of the shit. So somebody I don't know how they got that information.
Sounds unlikely.
But like I said, they put that on this forum. Now, I will note, though, that a couple posts later, somebody replied to that, and this was back in 2016. I haven't seen anything since then. And they said, no, I spent a lot of time in the house on the street that it's on. And they said more than 10 years. They didn't say they lived there because, like I said, I'm pretty sure that original family still lives there. But I'm assuming that these people are like a friend of the family or a relative or a neighbor or something. They said, yeah, I've spent a lot of time, more than 10 years. I've spent a lot of time in that house, and it absolutely is haunted. Now, this person also claimed that 4 people had died in the house, 3 of whom were murdered. Now, I was like, oh, I'm absolutely going to look that shit up.
Yeah, how could they know?
I couldn't find anything about that. Now, I did find, like, a pretty famous murder. Well, it's not famous, but, I mean, in the town it was famous. There was kind of, like, a big murder that happened in Chester, Vermont in 1929. But as far as I know, it wasn't on this street. It might have been somewhere else. There wasn't, like, a huge amount of info about it. So I don't really know.
Sounds like a wild claim to me.
That's what I mean. Because I was like, if 3 people got murdered, like, I don't know if they were 3 murdered, like, at the same time, or if it was, like, over. Because the house has been there for, like, hundreds of years. So it could have been 3 people murdered over, centuries. Which,
records are strange, though. Fucking, you'd have to dig that shit up. And who's digging up these records to prove that 3 people, 4 people died there over the 100 and some odd years?
I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying in my own cursory search, I couldn't really find anything. Like, nothing came up. So, yeah. But I mean, you might have to, like, dig way deeper, because it might have happened, like, a long time ago. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't have, like, all day to, like, look into the shit, but I was curious, so I kind of started looking into it.
I think people jump to the conclusion that, well, this is a bad house, so therefore murders happened. I don't think that's necessarily the case, you know what I mean? Freaking, you might just have a bad house. Maybe not because somebody was murdered there, it was just a bad person lived there at one time, and their spirit or something is connected to that place in a weird way, that they won't leave it, and they're just a bad person. It may not have anything to do with murder.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, like I said, I don't usually believe in that kind of like ghosts like that hang out there like after they die, because why the fuck would you want to do that? But if that was true, it's just kind of like that doesn't necessarily mean that they got murdered in there. Maybe they just really like that house and they don't want to leave.
The average homicide's mundane. Doesn't even really involve evil people, just dumb people fighting over something, and both of them kind of bad. And then a fucking more tortured and conflicted person might be a better candidate for a haunting that would make a fucking bad house than, say, a murderer. Just some dude who's fucking crazy, crazy and constantly worrying and fucking self-torturer kind of. Constantly punishing himself, and he's in his own living hell, and then when he dies, he's like in the undead. He's like in his own hell in a parallel universe. And it's like he's astral, like he's projected slightly, he's connected to that area. Punishing himself is more likely.
Well, I kind of feel like I said, I don't really buy into the whole thing, but if you do buy into that whole thing, then you could think, well, if this person doesn't think just hypothetically, they don't think they deserve to go to like a better, like a higher plane or whatever, and so they're kind of like further punishing themselves by hanging out in this house and like staying here, and then they're just getting angrier and angrier.
Somebody who can't resolve whatever
and more resentful, sure.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like there is a lot of people that do kind of believe that about ghosts. It's like, well, that's why they're hanging out, because they have like a bunch of unresolved issues, whether it's somebody that they have to like tell somebody about something, or whether they don't think, like I said, they don't think they deserve to like pass on to like something better or blah blah blah, so they just think they're like hanging out here because there's all kind of like issues that they haven't worked through
I've
yet.
always kind of imagined it as like the soul of a fucking crazy person, of an insane person who's fucking punishing themselves more than anything else, because even the evil can fucking resolve their issue after death, you know what I mean, and go to wherever they go into the afterlife, and then fucking maybe punish themselves, and then get over that, and then just continue on and fucking reincarnate in some way. Like in Christianity and in Islam and Judaism, well, Judaism not so much, but in Christianity and Islam, if you commit evil, you have to be punished in hell. They say it's forever and ever, but then like in the Apocrypha in Christianity and in Judaism, it says, well, no, it's actually not forever. It's just that you're in a timeless state. You go and what they're talking about, then they make references to kind of like some of the ideas that come from Zoroastrianism, where you die, you descend into basically a self-inflicted hell to burn off all of your impurities until you fucking have paid for what you've done and resolved what you've done, and then you're free. you know, because you paid for it. It's probably a situation like that. In other words, a time of penance, and then you're free. It's like a reset button. So could be that a bad house or a haunted house is a person who is not willing to go through the fucking burning off of impurities phase. So they're kind of stuck slightly in the astral world. They don't want to go to resolution, so they're out there out of body.
They're in a rut.
Yeah, torturing and punishing themselves with fear. A good movie that kind of shows this would be The Frighteners, where a dude dies and he's like, no, this couldn't have happened to me. No, I'm still alive. I'm going to move back in with my wife. And fucking Michael J. Fox like, no, don't do that. You got to wait for the light to come back and then go to the light type of deal. Oh, no. It'd be something like that. But worse, maybe. Somebody who's afraid to move on. Maybe they're thinking eternal punishment. That type of shit.
Perhaps so.
Yeah.
Zach says the Summerland sounds like the name of a retirement community in Florida. It probably is, to be honest.
They're probably one of those out there.
But it also does kind of sound like an afterlife kind of situation too.
Yeah.
Danny Rolling says, Black Ghost, what? You replaced the Formica cabinets? Aw, hell no. Your husband's ass is mine tonight. Yeah. That's what I mean. Renovating.
Yeah.
Don't be fucking changing.
Don't change the shit.
Don't pull that shag carpeting out.
Change the shit.
The ghost is really, really used to that.
Yeah.
Don't pull out all that wood paneling.
Yeah.
They're like, I liked that there. I liked it. But yeah, so, and I want to say too, also, the Wiccans on this show, I don't know if they're still around, but ISIS Investigations is apparently no longer a thing, or they might have changed their name. Because their domain name is now for sale. Somebody posted a link like back in 2016.
I don't think I bought
to something. That's what I mean. And I wrote on my notes. I said their domain name is now for sale, though I can't imagine who would want it.
Maybe they want that shit for $20.
No, they're selling it for $1,400.
No.
The domain name. So they might still be around, but they're not called the same thing. Because like I said, that's not a great name.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arezo. Question for Tom. You talked about bad houses before. How do you define bad house? My husband's culture has a similar concept. I don't believe in hauntings or ghosts, but I've always found that interesting.
Well, I guess you didn't hear the original story about the bad house.
Maybe not, because she hasn't been around in a while.
When I started to ETS out of the Army and get out, my best friend was only like, he ETS, at the time his name was Eric Grock. He was ETS'd only 5 days before me. And I had a girlfriend in Boston going to university there. And he had lived there before. So we already had this plan. Look, man, we're getting out around the same time. When we ETS and get out of the Army, we'll move to Boston together. I was like, all right, great. So, he ETS'd first and hung out in the barracks for like about a week, which we could do that back in those days because the barracks was kind of empty. And then we moved out together and we left. The day we left Fort Campbell, Kentucky, a mass shooting happened at a damn fucking massage parlor, which changed the destiny of fucking. And we left and fucking watched all the cop cars descend on that damn shooting. We found out about it later what happened. Dude found out his wife was working at fucking massage parlor, and he killed her and a couple of other girls and some other dudes, and then shot himself in there.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Case actually.
Yeah, that was the day we got a. That was September 24th, 1994.
I remember that case.
Yeah. So we drove all the way to Boston. We already had a house fucking lined up and moved in there. That house is over 100-something odd years old, and it was in Arlington, Massachusetts, right outside Somerville. Right outside Medford is where it was. And I found it before. I forgot the address, but I found it on Google Earth. I remember. I can find it again. I know where it is. Moved in there, man, and fucking it had just a bad feeling about it. Like you were being watched, and it was very oppressive. And you didn't want to fucking be by yourself in that damn house. Well, we started dating girls. We lived there for fucking almost a year. And a lot of weird shit happened in there. We only paid last month's and deposit for that. And no one ever collected rent from us. We didn't know where to send the rent. So we were in there for almost a year. We didn't pay any money. I don't understand what that was. And then later, the house sold to somebody else. They told us we had to leave. They gave us notice, and so we left. We didn't even know where. So anyway, we were living in there, and bunch of weird shit had happened. Bunch of good shit happened too. You know, we were hanging out with fucking John's Wiz from Sleep Chamber and all the barbiturates, and we had all kinds of fucking wild ass fucking parties in there with hot fetish strippers and shit. Fucking. We would be dating these girls. We took over the whole house. When we first moved in there, the realtor said we only had the bottom floor. But then we found, as weeks and months went on, we just took over the fucking whole house. It had fucking 2 floors and then an attic apartment. And I was living up in the attic apartment. Felt like you were being watched in the house. Your girlfriend fucking would have to go take a leak, and she'd want you to walk you to the fucking bathroom and wait outside for her while she was taking a leak. Nobody wanted to be in the house by themselves. I'd fucking walk in and fucking walk up on Eric sometime, and he'd jump sky high. And I said, "What are you scared of?" And he never fucking admitted it. A bunch of weird shit had happened in the house. He never fucking admitted that he was afraid of that place until we moved out. And I said, "You were scared of the house, weren't you?" He's like, "Yeah, it was." He says, "Why?" He goes, "It was a creepy house." I said, "The house is haunted, wasn't it?" And he goes, "Well, no." Because he was a real rational dude. He didn't believe in any of that shit. I said, "The house is haunted, fucking dude." But what the weird thing about that is that nothing ever moved. So I'd already seen a poltergeist, and it was moving stuff. Nothing ever moved in the house. Never saw any apparitions. Never heard any voices. Just the feelings of being watched. Kind of an unnatural stillness. And bad dreams. You'd have real bad dreams. You'd have bad feelings. And almost kind of like visions in a weird way. You're like, oh, I don't want to open that door for some reason. I'm not going in there. That kind of shit. You'd have the weird mental image of something, being bad on the other side of the door. There's nothing you could really prove to yourself.
I wonder if it was something to do with maybe, I don't know, was it some kind of like weird sound thing, or maybe some kind of...
I don't know. There was one time where I felt like I was being attacked by something, but I didn't see anything. I was just being attacked of waves of fear and hatred swirling around me.
Now, see, there was an episode of A Haunting, which actually we watched, but we haven't done a show about it, about that house where all the women that went in there said they felt horrible, like overwhelming depression and sadness. Yeah, and like they couldn't explain it.
Yeah. It was like that. Yeah. But I never really could prove it to myself. But everybody felt that way. Had anything moved, I would have known. I would have said, "Yep." But I never. Whatever it wasn't poltergeist. It wasn't anything that I had seen before. So I just kind of put it in the category of bad house. I wouldn't even really say it was haunting because I didn't see any apparitions or hear of anything. And it didn't communicate.
Like not like anything was trying to communicate.
Yeah, it was just a bad house. A real bad house.
Now I kind of wonder, like, if you looked into the history of it, like if something like really, really bad happened there and you're like picking up on that.
I don't know. I'm almost, the feelings of dread at the time I didn't want to know. Whatever it was, there was something bad in there. That's the way I can describe it.
Yeah. Kevin Donovan said, "I lived on Cape Cod for a year and a half. Salem is the mecca for Wiccans and nature people. If you want to have a fun Halloween, you have to visit Salem, Massachusetts."
Yeah.
I have been wanting to go to Salem, Massachusetts for Halloween for
ages and
ages.
That's where Canberra was from. She worked in
I would love that.
She worked in a shop there near the fucking Witch Museum. And then she worked in another shop, I believe, later on over there near Cambridge that they had back then.
Yeah, Zach says, what was the address for that house?
I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I can find it again.
Yeah, you'd have to look and find it.
I know where it is.
I mean, it was a while back, so it might look different now.
Well, yeah, it was an old house. It's fucking funny because it's behind a liquor store now. because the city grew up around it. And you go down a main street, and then it was, not Arlington. I don't remember the name of this. You had to get off on the red line, I think, not Davis, but the very last stop. You had to get off, and then you had to walk, and then you had to get a bus, and then you had to fucking go down, you had to take the bus to my house. I had that damn T-Pass that included train and bus, though. We didn't have a car at that particular time. And really, owning a car at Boston in those days just was impractical.
Well,
there was nowhere to park it.
Yeah, I mean, like big city, like Boston, New York, stuff like that. I mean, I wouldn't even bother.
There's nowhere to park it
with a car.
Yeah,
it just seems
so
like
much
a hassle.
cheaper just to buy the damn T-Pass. Sure, you could go anywhere.
It just seems like a hassle.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, in Florida, you can't get away with that because
everything's too far apart.
The public transportation is atrocious, and two, like everything is too far apart. Everything is just kind of like all the shit you want to go to is like 20, 30 miles.
Yeah.
Like, so you absolutely need
it's
a car.
all country.
Like if you live in a big city, you don't really need a car, but down here.
Yeah, and what's funny is that like people that live in those areas constantly trying to dictate to the rest of the fucking country how things should be, but they don't live in the same reality that we live in. The distances between things is fucking vast, and you can't put fucking public transportation because it would go broke. It would go broke. You couldn't connect it all.
I mean, we have some, but it's not great.
It's not enough,
and
right.
honestly, like I grew up in Daytona, and like I didn't have a car for a really long time because I couldn't afford one. So I did actually have to take a bus, but you could kind of get where you were going, but it would take like an hour and a half minimum. And you'd have to like walk like half a mile too. So there was that. Yeah,
but Zach, I'd have to find it on Google Earth again because I can remember the path that I took. I know where it is on the map. But remember, this was 1995. So
that was a very
and I was there less than a year. And if I heard this, it wasn't really even on a street. It was in a circle or a cul-de-sac. It was a main street, and in between two a laundromat and a fucking dime store. What do you call it? A fucking liquor store. Was looked like a damn driveway that would go up into behind the alley, and it would open up into a circle that had about 6 or 7 houses from the 1800s in there, like 1870s. They weren't behind the storefronts at the time that they were built. They were out in the middle of the country, but they connected them all that way. They were old. The basements were all stone, like big old fucking stones and shit. The basements were very creepy in that one house. But I would say they were 1870s. And the floor plan didn't make any goddamn sense. Everything was Victorian. You had to walk through everybody's room to get anywhere. And they still had 1800s, early 1900s bathtubs and showers in them. And a lot of really nice molding and stuff. Everything was wood. Everything would creak, wooden floors. There was no carpet, just wood floors. But the wall layouts didn't make any goddamn sense. And it was like Lizzie Borden's house. If you remember those Lizzie Borden, like that.
Well, you can still go to that house as far as I know.
Yeah.
I'm always kind of like interested in that because that just goes to show how people's lifestyles have changed so much since that time, which wasn't really like, in the grand scheme of things, wasn't really that long ago. But yeah, the fact that so many houses from that era they didn't really have a huge concept of like privacy, or I don't know, man. It just seemed like really weird how you had to like walk through like people's rooms like to get to other fucking shit. Well, hey Rebecca, you just got here, and we just finished talking about the show. Let's see. Mike says, I'm sorry I'm drunk. Yeah, okay. I mean, Danny Rowling said, I've been to the Salem Witch Museum as a kid. I've been wanting to like go to Salem maybe one of these days, like when I have enough money. Like that would be like a good place to vacation because I've always wanted to go there because I love all that kind of stuff. So I don't know, maybe one day when I can afford it. I really like, honestly, the only places that I've been in kind of I don't know, the northeast of the U.S. I've been to New York City several times. I've been to Philadelphia once. I've been to Baltimore once. And that's about it. That's about it. I think. I don't think I've been anywhere else. And then I've been like out west a few times. I've been to Santa Fe and Denver and shit like that, but that's pretty much it. Mrs. Evans' already party said, my house is like that. Every room has a door to the next room. I read it was for heat and cool air control. I guess it must have been, but that must have been like really, really weird. I just can't imagine what it must have been like to be like, hey, going to the bathroom. Just don't mind me.
What are you talking about?
Walking through your room, like to go to like the bathroom.
Yeah. Well, that's why we started to move on different floors.
Yeah.
Each floor was really only suitable for one person.
Yeah.
In the modern era.
That's what I said. That always kind of fascinated me about how different our lives are nowadays.
Yeah.
Like how people's lifestyles are so different nowadays than they used to be.
Let's see, I'm going to find that place. I'll tell him.
Okay.
Go ahead and keep doing the show.
Rebecca said, LOL, my timing is awesome as always. Yeah. I mean, well, it's not your fault. You're like way on the other side of the world. So, like I said, we've been on here. We talked about the show. Well, we didn't talk about the show for probably like the first 35, 40 minutes because you know how we do. But I think we actually talked about the show longer than the actual show.
Yeah, probably did, yeah.
I think we usually do that. But, I mean, they're fun, though. These are fun to do. I like them. But this was a good episode. I liked this episode because, hi, Pook. She came and rubbed against my leg. I like this episode because, they didn't feel the need to like, oh, some of the ghosts are malevolent. I liked that. And I liked that Wiccans came in and saved everything, which you don't usually see on these shows. I kind of feel like, because we've talked about this before, I kind of feel like maybe one of the things that kind of pissed me off about the later haunting episodes is, like you said, they got a little churchy. Now, I don't know if it was the same company that was doing it. Well, hi. Okay. I don't know if it was the same company or if it was a different company or it was the same company with different owners or what it was, but it did seem like it was getting churchier as it went on, which is, they bring in the priest and he fixes everything. But some of the earlier episodes, they brought in priests on some of them, but this one, they didn't even like talk about any priests or anything. They're just like, let's call the Wiccans. And then, I don't think she said, let's call the Wiccans. She was just like, let's call paranormal investigators, and they happened to be Wiccans. And they came in and they fixed it, apparently. So, I don't know. Are you finding it?
Yeah, I think it was off Mass Ave. It's been so
okay.
long.
Yeah, Mrs. Evans already party said, I love these shows. These are fun. I really like doing these. These ones and the sidetrack shows are like my favorite ones to do. Just because they're not, I mean, this one I do some research ahead of time because like I said, we watch the shows and I take a bunch of notes about it and then I try to like find out stuff about the house otherwise. So I did do some research about this place, like to see if I could find some other shit about it. And then, like I said, I did find out where it really was, but I'm not going to tell anybody because I don't want anybody because the same family lives there, evidently. So I don't really want anybody bothering them. But so I do that. But other than that, I mean, these are like pretty fun to do. They're like pretty low stress, Arezo says, that's interesting. The being watched sense of something bad on the other side of the door is how my husband describes it too.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like I've lived in some purportedly haunted houses in my time. Probably the most prominent of those being my grandfather's old house, which is not there anymore. It was torn down and made into a frat house, actually, for the college. It was Embry-Riddle. But he had lived there for many years, and I lived there with my family off and on, like, over the years, and I loved that house. It was, like, really, really cool. I think it was built in the 1910s, 1920s, something like that, so it was, like, pretty old, but I always, like, really liked it. Now, my mom and all of her siblings, of which she had 7, all grew up in that house, and they all had a bunch of stories about how haunted that place was. They said, oh my God, like the covers used to be torn off them like in the night. They used to hear like footsteps, like walking back and forth across the roof all the time and all this other kind of stuff. So me, like, being a kid growing up there, I was, like, super excited about it. And I was like, woohoo, ghosts, all right. And it's like, I wanted to, like, experience it. But I never did. And honestly, like, even in that house, the house was creepy, but I never felt uncomfortable there. I never felt like it was haunted, like, to me. And I was always, and I know that's weird, but I was always kind of, like, disappointed. I always kind of, like, wanted it to feel haunted to me because all of my, you know, my mom and my aunts and my uncles, you know, told me they'd grown up there, and they said, oh my God, all this, like, crazy shit, like, happened when they were growing up. And I was like, I just kept waiting because I lived there for quite a while, like, off and on, but nothing ever happened. And I never felt weird there. I never felt scared. I never felt anything like that. Like I said, matter of fact, I loved that house. I thought it was, like, really, really cool, but unfortunately it's been torn down, which really makes me sad, like, when I think about it. And honestly, like, when still to this day, even though it's been, I don't even know how many years it's been since the house has been torn down, but I still have dreams about that house nowadays. And if any of you have read my book, which is my novel, which is called Bellwether, when I was writing it, I set it in that house. Actually, I've said a lot of my short stories in that house, but that novel in particular, I set in that house particularly because I used to love that house. I thought it was, like, so cool, but it's gone now, which bums me out.
I'm having a hard time because I can't put get a street view.
Mike says, when's the next Giallo review, Jenny? I think I'm going to do one in September. I can't remember what one I'm doing because a couple days ago, because I try to keep, like, those kind of reviews, I usually, like, do them a month out. I don't always do the ones that I think I'm going to do because of various things, like maybe something else comes up or, you know, that disappears off the streaming service or whatever. But I think I might do The Case of the Scorpion's Tail, maybe, but I'm not really sure. I think it's going to be sometime in September, though, probably. Or I'm going to do another one in September. It might be that one. I'm kind of thinking that'll probably be the one. Let's see. Mrs. Evans' Arty Party says, I lived in a house with a very happy spirit. It was weird and awesome at the same time. I always felt watched but protected, and I was completely unafraid in the dark. See, that's cool, though.
I'm seeing streets that I recommend, or that I recognize the names. I'm coming up on it. Eventually, I should be able to find it. I'm trying to get a damn street view. I'm looking for the little court that it was in. I'm just following the road. I may not be able to find it within the time frame of the fucking show, but all this stuff sounds familiar.
I mean, it's been a while. So.
It's been a while. Yeah, Hancock. It'd take me time to find it now, I think. Bedford. Man, it's been so long since I've been down there.
You should have prepared.
I should have prepared.
And you should probably be sober.
Okay, look, I'm not gonna be able to find it in time. I know the general area, but it looks like they've actually changed some of the street
layouts.
layouts.
I mean, like I said, it's been a long time, so they probably don't.
Yeah, because I found it before a couple of years ago on the show, and I found it quickly. I'm having a problem finding it. They may have actually, for all I know, purchased that area and fucking torn it down. I mean, a lot of the clubs that we used to go to no longer exist. Rathskeller no longer exists. Man Ray no longer exists. I mean, where Man Ray is a bookstore, of all things, which is probably out of business by now.
What's wrong with the bookstore?
Well, it's probably out of business by now.
I don't know. There's still books. There's still a bookstore in downtown Sanford.
Yeah. Okay.
Ian England said, I swear there's a little gremlin at my work because I'll find tools that I was looking for in places I thoroughly scoured. Yeah. Rebecca said, drinking at 9:30. I'm assuming she means 9:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Might not be the wisest thing for me, but while you all get drunk, I can hit the medicinal cannabis. Anxiety does have its upside. We'll see. There you go. Mrs. Evans' Arty Party said, sorry your grandpa's house got torn down. Yeah, I'm still kind of like bummed out about it. I don't know. I really, really liked that house. That sucks. I like houses better than I like most people. Yeah, I feel that. Kevin said, Tom, do you lift at a gym or at home? That's an easy question for you to answer.
Yeah, I got a gym right there.
Just in the next, right in the next room, like on the other side of this wall.
Yeah.
He
Got
has
some
a
Gold's
whole
Gym free weights.
Gold's Gym free weights.
Yeah.
He's got a whole thing over
You
there.
got a bench and everything.
So like now, sometimes when I'm in my office, I hear him going, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
Like in the next, I'm like, I am trying to make a video in here. Why? Why you like making?
Okay, you ready to get some hot dogs?
Is that a sexual innuendo?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we're gonna make some hot dogs for dinner. Yeah, we've been on an hour and 44 minutes.
This
like I said, we've done like
show.
Well, these are fun.
Everybody
like
loves them.
These are fun. These are fun. So yeah, now tonight we are probably gonna watch, because I told him, I was like, look, I have so much work to do tomorrow, so let's not do a movie that's like really complicated, that I need a lot of that's really long, or that I need a lot of time to analyze and stuff. So we might do, since we did King Kong yesterday, we might do Son of Kong, or maybe might do Joe Young. We'll see which one we feel like, and maybe which one is shorter. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So come back tomorrow evening, and we will be doing a movie review matinee show. So thanks for hanging out with us this evening, and thanks for all your super chats and all your comments. You guys are awesome, and we will see you guys again tomorrow. Bye.